Good morning, I'm Kathy Kiely, President of the Ad Club, and welcome back to the Big Orange Couch. Today we have the pleasure of sitting with Larry Weber, who's the Chairman and CEO of the W2 Group. Welcome to the Big Orange Couch, Larry.
Great to be here, Kathy.
And thank you for being here.
Sure.
This book that we're referring to everywhere is your fourth book. And then when I talked to your group, they said you're working on a fifth.
Yep.
So I guess my start-off question is, where do you get the time to do all of this?
Well,
and congratulations.
Thank you. It's funny because ever since I was pushed sort of into PR well over 30 years ago, and that's mostly what I'm known about. But I've also was really early in the web, and I'm not Al Gore, but we did do all the PR for Tim Berners-Lee and HTML in 1993. And so I had started also an early interactive agency, one of the first ones called Thunder House. I've been fascinated about the evolution of marketing and marketing communications and sort of the balance of paid and unpaid media. And I was introduced to social way back in 1998 when I made a little investment, the wrong investment, in a company called Friendster, which, believe it or not, is still around a little bit, but it was a precursor to Facebook, really. And so I've really watched that. And then when I was having my earn out at Interpublic, I spent 7 years on Madison Avenue 3 days a week, so I got to learn sort of that traditional kind of media, world. And I just worked with so many different clients over the years that I've followed sort of three paths. That is, how do you communicate with your customers and potential customers? How technology's impacting all of this marketing, because I actually worked for technology companies that were my clients, so it was easy to follow that. And then how content plays into that, because on a good day in public relations, it's all about the influence of opinion through content. And that's really what's happening on the web today, is content's become the new bait. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because actually your book is fascinating, because what I loved about it is it's about social media, but it gets beyond marketing.
Right.
It doesn't entirely focus on marketing. And for me, I feel sometimes that social media is the new confusion that we all have to deal with, because I think much like when you and I were working together back when the internet, there were a group of people that took that on and they confused us all to death and made a profit off it.
And really, a couple books ago, I talked about, in Marketing the Social Web, I talked about how every new platform, from television, radio, there's this confusion at the beginning of any of this, and we're still have a bit of that confusion, right now. But what I do know is it's going to start settling out, and it's going to be about engagement. How do you engage customers at the right time so that they buy stuff?
Which is what I loved about Everywhere, because I think the name is so appropriate. So you talked about social media as the next core to your strategy in the company.
Right.
But you got beyond marketing, you got into hiring, and you got into how do you create loyalty through social media?
Yeah, what I saw happening, especially at clients like General Electric and IBM, is that they were saying, it's social media sort of came in through the marketing, advertising, PR department, and we're starting to look at it, and then we started to realize that, gee, this LinkedIn is pretty sophisticated, and look at how we're managing our people and how people are managing their own careers and how we're trying to recruit people or stay in touch with people, so that it's not just your current employees, it's your former employees that you want to keep a relationship with and your future employees. And then on innovation and crowdsourcing, I mean, you talk about, and this sort of is quasi-marketing, but Yoplait Yogurt, for example, last year put 2,000 designs for a new yogurt container in Europe, and everybody finally voted at the end. It was sort of like the American Idol of yogurt containers, and they all voted finally on one, and it was the most successful launch of a new product that they've ever had. So you start to see where the elements of social are all about, engagement, open honesty, transparency, connections, and what we're also going to see, and I talk about in Everywhere, is this deep micro-segmentation of the web through social.
So it sounds like it's getting more and more important to be focused on what your core belief is as a company.
Positioning couldn't be more important
Yeah.
right now, and really why you exist, what you stand for,
Right.
and also what we have to learn, and I talked about this a lot and everywhere, is that we shouldn't be thinking about just one big website or these big websites, because I think that giant websites are going to go the way of the Soviet Union and sort of collapse under their own weight. And
Yep.
what it's going to be are these simple digital destinations that are networked together.
A lot of people who watch the Big Orange Couch are young
Yeah.
people. And let me ask you this. If someone were to come to you and say, Larry, I'm looking to start an agency,
Yep.
Whether they called it an agency or not, after you hit them on the head, what would you say to them? What do you see the successful agency of the future
Well,
looking like?
The agency of the future, I've asked this, a lot, and having been in agencies and starting my own, and now almost 35 years, my advice is, first, if you want to start your own, you're going to have to be very entrepreneurial.
Sure.
Second, one thing that hasn't changed and will not change is the service orientation. So, you've got to be good at service, and you have to have quality of service, and you have to be forward-looking about the kind of, work and platforms that you do. I'd also say that you have to have domain expertise now more than ever. I think you can't just be a generalist and say, I can take on anything from fast food to database software marketing. You have to have at least some deep focus so that you're not, extremely horizontal in understanding that. I also think agencies of the future are going to be more like systems integrators. They're going to have to understand how to build applications on everything from iPads to iPhones to Blackberries to
Yep.
that, and what technologies are coming to help us understand data better and analytics better. And I'm not saying we have to be geeks, but
Right.
we have to have at least an understanding and know where to go so that we can pull the best practices together for our client base. I think we're not talking enough about the future of creativity and what role that's going to have as all these new things, platforms, social media, technology, start to settle down a little, because I don't see anything disruptive happening, like the web,
Sure.
or Google search. It all seems to be now just maturing, and I like to call, and everywhere I call it the fourth wave of computing, which is, we aren't even going to call it computing. My oldest daughter's 21, and when I got up from dinner the other night, she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go online for a while." And she laughed at me, Kathy. And I said,
Hard to believe.
"Right? Why are you laughing at me, Hannah?" And she said, "You use the word online, and you're supposed to be like Mr. Digital." And I went, "Well, what do you use?" And she said, "We don't. We just are." So.
Which is that's a classic comment. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what would you say to your college-age children for their careers?
If they were interested in the marketing sector, I would very much push for a deep understanding, taking courses and understanding of basic economic principles, to know how businesses
Yep.
are run, how they make money. That would be one. Second is, I would have a real tune in on technologies. Again, what are the platforms? What are the applications? What are the things that people are getting attracted to, and study that. Third, I would study where people get their information. And then I think you're going to have this combination of, sort of consulting, marketing, execution kind of jobs that I think are going to be actually growing quite quickly.
Someone said social media for a brand now is like if you're a new brand, is like walking into a big party and figuring out how to get people, A, to notice you, and B, to like you before you leave the party.
It's really about engagement. So that analogy of going into the party, how do you engage with people as much as possible so that they remember you and your brand, or what you're offering, your position in the marketplace, and all that. And it's increasingly social. And it's also not, one thing that's important, it's, again, to that analogy, it's not just to each person, it's how you work collectively. So companies that just try to have a Facebook strategy, I think, are being naive. They have to figure out how to have a comprehensive digital strategy
Sure.
that includes both paid, like Google, and earned, like the LinkedIn's or the Facebook's.
One of the things that you touched upon, which I loved, was when you started your own company, how important connectivity was and finding the right people to help you at the right time and the right moment. For me, I feel like Boston, if you take advantage of it, is amazing at that.
Boston right now, its evolution, its DNA is the perfect city, and there are very few for the future of marketing.
I agree.
And I think institutions like the Ad Club, who have been so great at networking people physically as well as digitally, are extremely important to a community like this. And to know where you, if you don't have the ability to have a writer on a very specific, client that you can somehow through an Ad Club find maybe that a writer with that experience, to do that work. But when you look at the DNA of Boston overall, you have all these strands that are braiding together. You have the technology community, right? You have the creative community. You have content community, and then you have production community. So you have all of that sort of data communities. You have all that working together to really make a soup that I think the only other city, New York's trying, but I think we're ahead of that because media, New York's stick was they had all the media. Well, now that media doesn't have to be physically,
Right.
in any one place, it's going to take them a while to catch up. And San Francisco. So, those are probably the three towns.
So the book is everywhere, and the 5th book comes out, and I hate to rush you.
No,
hate to
no, I
push you.
probably won't have it done until mid next year because we're doing loads of research. It's tentatively titled Marketing and the 21st Century. And what it is, it's taking each area that I think is going to be impactful for the future of marketing and having a chapter just dedicated to it. What a lot of people don't know is 2 years after graduate school, because I had a master's degree in 20th century British and American literature, I couldn't find a job.
Very useful.
So I taught prep school for 2 years. So I like the idea of teaching,
yeah.
and so I put that in a lot of the books. I take less of a case study approach and more of a educative approach.
This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Covered a lot of territory, so I thank you for being here. We give everyone who sits on the big orange couch a gift, a parting gift for
How
playing
wonderful.
along. You'll be alone on the beach with this in the summer because very few people have this. It says, I sat on the big orange couch. So I'm going to sign this for you, but the deal is I'm going to sign this and you're going to sign this book for me.
I will sign this book for you,
Alright.
Kathy.
And we'll trade. Larry, this was fun. I really enjoyed this. And speaking of 2 martinis, that'll be in our future, right?
Very shortly. Thanks,
All right,
Kathy.
all right, thank you.
Great.
And thank all of you for joining us once again on the Big Orange Couch.